Well, there are guests and there are guests, and let's get right to it because we've got a very special one right now. And just by way of introduction, not that he needs one, but among his many awards, Presidential Medal of Freedom, our nation's highest civilian honor, Television Hall of Fame, Kennedy Center honors. He's got the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. He's an actual doctor. He's also got 17, I think, or so honorary doctorates. Armload Emmys and Grammys. Most of all, he's been really, really funny for a really long time. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bill Cosby.
Yay! Good morning, Bill.
Well, now, see, there's the problem. I thought I had it sold out, but I only had 3 people, so...
How are you?
Say that again.
I said, how are you?
Say that again.
How are you? I'm going to begin with
I was
this.
on the airplane with a fellow, my seat partner, and he said to me, he said, "Who's the funniest person that you've ever seen?" And I said, I can't say that. I mean, I know a lot who've tied, but I said, there is one situation, and then there's 2 that rank number 1. And then there are others who can tie it, but they're not funnier than. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for instance, there's Jonathan Winters, and then there's Jack Benny, and then there's a assorted, like maybe one comedian. For instance, like Jackie Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy he never smiled about anything, and he had a little trickle of sweat right in the middle, that goes down the top lip.
Yeah, It's got a name. I don't know.
It's in the middle of the top lip under the nose, and it never fell. That was his nervous sweat, and he said, and I laughed, I think, out loud, just looking at the picture of what he had presented.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "My father said, never spit in a man's face unless his mustache is on fire." and that was it for me.
Yeah.
I just kept seeing that picture over and over, and the stupidity of it all. It's just wonderful. And for me, laughter is such a great medicine, but a smile also, a genuine smile, not one of that has any sadness with it, like Charlie Chaplin's song. I mean, but just when you're listening to something and you smile, a recognition, it's just helpful.
And it's so necessary right now, especially that we just came out of news a little while ago, and we're constantly hearing the drumbeat of the other parts of our lives that are, constantly drumming. And it's such a wonderful respite and reminder of what is great about us all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that humor should really have a place where you can listen, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is unfair about something. I keep hearing things. Well, they make fun of politically correct, which actually gives people a feeling of, you should really respect somebody, no matter who they are. And if you can give that to them, and if you can use your humor to just deal with things where you're not hurting somebody's feelings, it's just a great way to do things. And we, those of us in this country, the wars, the attitudes of our children, the attitudes of our parents, the attitudes of people, the way we feel about our history. I mean, the fun of so many things that we can look at and see, yeah, this is great. Mm-hmm. And I love to go out there, plant myself in that chair, look at them, and just start to lie about anything.
You've been doing it for a really long time, and you still do it, and clearly you don't have to, and yet, and there are a lot of comedians who you think they don't have to go out, but it's almost like you have to. That seeing an audience and connecting with them is obviously, it's a gift you give them, but it must be important to you too.
When you connected with people in so many ways.
When you say you don't have to go out, I assume you're talking about whether I have to have the money to pay the rent.
Yeah.
But I do have to go out because the person who comes to mind is Picasso. Mm-hmm. That into those late 80s and 90s or something, to still draw, to still paint. Your mind is working. Many of us in our late years, they in fact are doing it because their minds are they still have something to offer. But then comes the judgment people who are in charge of whether you're too old. We're supposed to be in this time now of short attention span. If you have it doesn't make any sense to me. If you have a short attention span, how the ham fat can you be multitasking? Mm-hmm. Because if you have a short attention span, you're not going to pay attention.
That's true.
And you're going to get so many things wrong. In other words, you can't. A short attention span, please don't put that person in charge of switching the tracks on the railroad. So what I'm saying to you is that I have, for instance, I did the Comedy Central special, Far From Finished.
Right.
And one of the things was, our audience likes the things quick, fast, the bam, bam, do. And, of course, we will get into the naughty language, et cetera, et cetera. And so they're taking a chance. And I said, well, I really appreciate it. Now, I'm telling you, I'm looking at these people, and they're telling me that their audience may not sit still for something that is funny. And, I mean, that's the way they're basing an awful lot of age, how old a person is, or whether or not a person can be judged, their material can be judged as soft because they're not using any profanity, or as we used to say, filthy mouth words. Mm-hmm. And man, that show played, and one of the executives had to buy dinner for 30 people because he thought that the show would only draw X number of people. And he said, and if it goes beyond that, I will buy dinner at any this guy, I don't know what he paid for it. You know what I mean? But there again, we had to also guess, well, how much money is he making that he can afford that?
Right.
So now we have a second one, which will be out November 28th, and that's called 77. That's because it's my age, and it's the second time that I put my age on a tape or a DVD, and it's on Netflix. It'll play, so you'll get that anytime you want to. But man, I'm having a ball.
Yeah.
And I'm coming to your city, and I've got something that I hope at this moment when I'm talking to you, I will do that routine. And the reason why I say I hope I will do it has nothing to do with dementia. Although I think that when the honesty of people in their 60s on up is fantastic, because I'm 77, but I do know that we're not afraid, none of us, we're not afraid to say, wait a minute, I can't remember what that is.
Yeah.
You know, people in their 30s, they're scared to death to say that.
Yes.
I wonder what that is.
It's called faking it. but here's one of the funniest moments to be 77 at this time. You can sit with an 8-year-old man, and if they have an iPhone and you're talking, and they're just maybe a part of the company, and there's about 3 or 4, like family thing, and somebody says, wait a minute, what was the name of the guy that played the prophet? And all of a sudden, I'm going to use this. They say, and a glow comes over the child's face, which is what we used to speak of children with glowing faces, you know, meaning that they're well-behaved and they're bright kids. But now the glow is from the phone.
Right.
And then the kid calls out the name. Was it so forth and so on? And we go, yeah. So, man, I'm happy for this invention. I'm happy that these children are sitting there texting their friends and cursing and using foul language. But they also, at age 8, have time to switch over and prove to you that they know who so-and-so is. They will forget later, as we forget. But our honesty brings us, always bring along an 8-year-old with an iPhone.
Yes, they can look up the answers for
This
you.
is my nephew, Rodney, and he's very bright from the palm of his hand.
Right. Mr. Cosby, I was watching some videos of you on just last evening, you know, getting ready to speak with you. And I was watching, you know, some of those early stand-up routines where you're wearing those great-looking suits back in the day. What would that young, early Bill Cosby comic think of Bill Cosby at 77?
He would look at him and he would say, man, I hope I can be like that when I get that old.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what he would be watching, and let me also take what you've just said and switch it over. If the 77-year-old Bill Cosby saw the 25-year-old Bill Cosby, what would he think? Would he think this kid had any potential? And the answer is, you darn tootin', Roy.
What was it? And at what point did the light bulb go off and you went, this is it. This is going to work. This is going to be my life.
I don't know. I just kept working.
Yeah.
I just kept working. The goal was to work it and be there as long as I can. Because I judged it on, without credentials, without career credentials, what jobs would I have? And I was okay. I'm going to drive a bus, maybe go to school and be the conductor on the train, the subway train, in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly know that I've got to have some credentials and a high school diploma so that it's just not left up to me to bus tables and wipe floors with no future. So things started to happen so fast. And I think this is important information for all you young people and not young people, that if you look at your life and you continue to make yourself prepared, one of the most dangerous things for those of us in our late 30s, 40s, going into late 40s, is that we play a numbers game with ourselves. Well, I now know that I have the capability to memorize chemistry, to know calculus. I can do these things now because I want to and I'm ready. But by the time I go to college, I will be this old, and by the time I do, let's say I want to be an engineer and get a doctorate, and I'll be 37 years. There's a wonderful book called Three Doctors, and it's about three African-American young men who decide while they're on the corner and spending their lives on the corner, they just decide, you know what, this is enough of this. Let's go. We want to become doctors. We want to do this. And they go through all of it. And one of them said, as I was sitting on the panel with him, he said, I went to my father and I said, Dad, I want to be a doctor. But by the time at my age, when I become one, I'll be 38 years old. He said, my father said, you're going to be 38 anyway, idiot.
Yes.
So it's the beauty of this life, the beauty of the United States of America. So many immigrants come here with degrees in engineering, degrees in medicine, and they can't become accredited, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to take jobs as the doorman at the Excelsior apartment building, as a this, and a guy who's a plumber could have been a doctor of radiology, but he can't get the diploma for it. And this country is so great for those of us born here. We can't miss it. We can't let it go.
Mm-hmm. And
you guys sitting there, look at what you could have become.
Right.
If only.
Really, all three of you need to apologize to your parents.
Yeah.
For just sitting around there freeloading off of the coffee machine.
And letting you do all the work, as it turns out, as well, right?
I don't mind doing all the work, man. And let me tell you something. As opposed to busting down the table and walking around saying to myself, as I used to when I was 19 and a half years old, yep, the sun comes up, and I'll bet you it'll go down.
Oh, and you were speaking about, talking about the three doctors and about as far as the fabric of our society goes, and your contribution there as well, and the groundbreaking, even though it's through entertainment, the contributions that you've made to sort of the way we all get along, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Do you feel like you was that something you decided you wanted to be sort of take a leadership role in, or do you feel like it was sort of foisted upon you? And how active are you continuing to be?
My whole life, the major part of the great things that I have done have been divine intervention. I will spare you of any religious things, but I'm telling you right now, man, the people who saw more in me than I saw in myself, and I think a great deal of what happened to me was a mother who, with 3 children, was not ready to take on raising these boys. I think my mother wanted to be liked more than to put the hands down. Now, I'm not talking about beatings or anything. I'm just talking about she worked every day as a domestic, and it took 12 hours for her to go and come back, and she fed us, she clothed us, she washed the clothing. We only had 2 outfits apiece, but we never wore a soiled piece of clothing. No, well, that's not true. There was a soil, and that was usually when she put too much starch and the iron was too hot and there wasn't enough time to rewash it and get all that out. So it was a discoloration in the starch. But if I said, here's what my mother could have done better, she could have said to me, is your homework done? Yes, Mom, let me see it. Uh-oh. And if she'd have stayed there, it would have been fantastic. But it wasn't. My father, what could he have done? He could have stopped drinking. Someone could have said to him, look at your own father. Here's a man who walks 5 miles to work, 5 miles back from work, takes care of his family, pays the bills, and why are you walking around saying, I don't believe that a man should have those responsibilities? And you're in and out of the house to the point where your oldest son, Bill, and the next oldest, Russell, and Bob, all 3 came to you and said, you're not welcome in this house, and if you show up again, you're not going to be able to walk or see. Mm-hmm. And he left, and he never came back. And we took care of that problem for our mother. Mm-hmm. She just believed that he was something that was special for her. Mm-hmm. And that stopped that. But it was at age 19 and a half, I joined the Navy. I don't know why, except to say I was just trying to get off my block.
Right.
And the day that man at boot camp looked at me and started that, I'm not your mother, and boy, that was a turn of life. Yeah. And I reported them. I wrote my mother, and I told her that these people were making me wake up, and I didn't have to be up, and I told him I didn't want breakfast, and he threw the blankets, and he threw the sheets, and he threw the mattress, and I had to make it up all over again. I have to scrub these floors, and I don't like it here, and I want to come home. And I said, get in touch with Roy Hubbard and tell Roy Hubbard, the councilman, to get me out of this because I'm coming home and I'm going to get a job. Uh-huh. And I was called in by the base commander at Bainbridge, Maryland. And I went to his desk and he said, did you write to your mother and complain about what we're doing? And I said, very sheepishly, I said, yes, sir. He said, well, sir, just let me tell you this. This is a letter from your mother. Sir, keep doing what you're doing and don't send him home until he knows how to make up a bed.
Speaking of mothers, and I know we have to let you go, but speaking of mothers, I'll just share this on our way out with you, which is I called my mother yesterday and said, guess who we get to speak with tomorrow? She goes, who? I said, Bill Cosby. She goes, will you do me a favor? Just tell him thank you.
Yeah.
So, from my mother,
does she owe me any money?
She doesn't owe you any money. She's coming to see you when you're in Cedar Rapids a week from Saturday, but she said, please say thank you.
You tell her if I can remember to do it, and if it is a part of it, I will dedicate this new piece to her. And the title of it is My Uncle William. But it's really about me at age 5 asking my Uncle William to please help me with the delivery of my brother, the second child born to my mother and father, from the stork. All righty?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
See you guys later.
Mr.
All right.
Cosby, it's been an honor.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.